and welcome to episode 41 of Life in General. My name is Nick.
Hi, I'm Ian. What do you want? I mean, I didn't realize there was a set way you had to say.
I know,
your name.
but you always come in like robot Ian, so I figured I'd do it.
I
this
just say it ironically.
time. Oh, is it really ironic though?
In a sense.
Where's the irony?
I don't know.
Come on, Alanis Morissette. Explain to me your irony.
I don't know. It's like
rain on your wedding day,
right?
Because there's irony in that also.
Fly in your Chardonnay.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah,
nothing in that song is ironic.
I know.
It's unfortunate. It's not
some bad luck, but there's nothing ironic in there.
I know. And that song was so big.
I know. Speaking of big, if you got any questions or comments, email us at contact@lifeingeneralpodcast.com. I'm surprised you didn't say anything when I said that. But
what was I supposed to say?
I don't know.
I don't get it.
When I said, speaking of big, and then you're like, I figured you'd have some smart-ass comment to make, like you always do.
Sometimes I just want to be normal.
Come on, Ian, you're killing our comical banter at the beginning of our episodes.
We're comical? Really?
I try sometimes.
Yeah.
Sometimes.
Like
I said, so any questions or comments, you can email us. Follow us on Twitter at LIGPod. Check us out on Facebook. Our website, lifeingeneralpodcast.com, has got all of our previous episodes on there. We are on iTunes, Podbean, Google Play Music, TuneIn Radio. We're on iHeartRadio. We're
Spotify.
We're finally on Spotify. It took me like 3 months to get us on Spotify, but we were finally on Spotify. So we should be pretty much everywhere now.
Yeah.
Anywhere you can find podcasts, you should be able to find us.
Indeed.
So that's about it.
Yeah.
We
should point out.
First off, I need to say something. I have to apologize to people that hated our last episode because it's all Ian's fault. I'm sorry.
It is my fault, and I'm going to say I'm not going to apologize to people who hated it because it was lighthearted. I'm sorry if I didn't want to talk about a depressing subject like suicide.
Well, I was going to make it not so depressing.
How do you make suicide not depressing?
I don't know. When you talk about
the whole point of suicide is because someone's depressed. How do you not make that depressing?
Talk about, I don't know,
the upside of it.
Yeah. Like mimes committing suicide.
Well, I don't think mimes are that self-aware. They're too busy trying to be Windows and shit. They don't pay attention to the fact that they should die.
Do they try to be Windows?
I don't know. They're trying to be stuff. I don't know.
Okay. So we actually do have a topic. Did you want to say something?
Well, no. It was kind of along those lines. I was just going to point out that we've had a complaint or two about our last show, and I understand the complaint, but we talked about several different things, and I don't feel it was really that much different than any of our other shows that we go off on tangents anyway.
That's true.
And
but it's always nice to just kind of bring it all back around and like tie it up a nice little bow.
Which we did. We tied it all around at the end and said, "See, talk to y'all later."
Yeah, goodbye, bitches.
Hey, it was a one-off. It was. I actually enjoyed the episode.
It wasn't a bad episode.
No, I actually had fun, and I actually had fun re-listening.
A little bit.
I had fun re-listening. Well, we did have a legitimate complaint from one of our fans, so I want to address it. And I'm doing it on the show.
So now we have a topic.
Yes.
So,
and it's not as depressing as suicide, but almost.
No, because there's a little bit more thought involved in it, I think.
I suppose.
And so we've had this list of podcast topics that we've been kind of adding to and subtracting from and kind of kicking around for a while. And there's been this. At one time, it was called. We were going to talk about children crying. I know we might have talked about this in one of the episodes. Children crying, growing up post 9/11.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think we've even said post 9/11, but we didn't get too in depth on it, I suppose.
But I was driving home from work. I think it was coming home from work. Maybe I'm coming home from school one day last week, and I started kind of thinking about some things in my head, and I'm like thinking about society and kind of the issues we have in our society now, and maybe, and it's things that maybe I haven't. It's really kind of come up really since September 11th. And if you think of ways to kind of describe our society today, I'll throw some words out there and see if you agree with me.
Yeah, because you have notes, I don't.
Of course, like always.
I know. It's a podcast.
It's another running bit for us. Ian has no notes. So, would you agree that our society is agitated? There's more agitation. There's more anger.
Yes.
There's more irritability.
Oh yeah, absolutely. But that could tie into the. Go ahead.
Hostility.
Yep.
Self-destructive or aggressive behavior.
Well, yes.
Hypervigilance, fear.
Oh yeah.
Anxiety, mistrust, emotional detachment, heightened reactions. This is all.
Well, all yes, but there's other elements to that as well.
Yes, but kind of the thing I'm getting at is these are all symptoms of PTSD.
Okay.
So my question is the United States suffering from PTSD from 9/11?
I would say that there's a part of that, but it's very difficult to apply something that, when it's applied to, say, a soldier or in those contexts.
Let me kind of.
I know what I'm saying is on a societal level,
because you're right. When you talk about and I don't want to underscore what PTSD really is.
Right.
It's kind of hyperbolic. Is kind of PTSD involves much more than what I listed. It typically involves nightmares and visions and crippling issues,
anxiety,
and obviously our society isn't suffering from that. But I still see, I'm still saying, it is there a form of PTSD that we as a society suffer from?
I would say that there probably is. I almost see it as our society, the American society, the American experiment is going through its teen years. We're going through that stage in our existence where, if you equated it to normal growth of a human person, when we're in our teen years, we start to think for ourselves, we start to make decisions, we make mistakes, but it's how we learn from those mistakes that define what we become later. Well, and I think we're at that point where we don't know what we are. And 9/11 was kind of a catalyst for kind of jump-starting that.
I would argue that. We knew what we were.
No, we had an idea of what we were. But we're not what that idea was. We never were. Theoretically.
Well, it's the United States always kind of prided itself, and as protecting a relentless protection of freedom, unity, and things like that. For certain people, correct.
Yeah.
But we don't really stand for any of that anymore, it seems like.
Well, I mean, that's my point, though. I don't know if we necessarily ever did.
I think we did more than we do now.
Well, maybe, but it kind of even goes to the whole all the people up in arms about the children being taken away from their parents at the borders. I keep hearing this. This isn't the America I grew up in. This isn't my America. Yes, it is. It's always been that way.
We've done that for hundreds of years.
We've never been what we claim to be.
Just because we didn't necessarily do it to Mexicans for the last 30 years,
right?
Didn't mean
we're still doing it to the African American community to a degree.
They're
still incarcerated by
Japanese during the World War II.
We engaged in slavery until past the middle of the 19th century.
See, and the thing that I think a lot of people fail to look at as far as the whole immigration issue is, the people coming from Central America are coming here not because we've opened our arms to any group of people. It's because we as Americans have fueled a drug war in Central America for the past 40 years.
Yeah. That's created an environment where good people can't live.
Mr. and Mrs. Listener out there, if you want to stop immigration, stop snorting cocaine, stop shooting heroin, you are the reason that these things are happening.
Or find ways to get your congressmen and senators to just legalize it.
Well,
I'm not sure if that's the right answer, but if it's legal, there's no longer a cartel.
Yeah, I wouldn't say legalize. I don't think legalizing heroin or legalizing cocaine is going to...
I'd have to see the models, because there are other countries that have done it. And
they've re-legalized most of it.
Re-legalize it, you mean?
Yeah, that's what I meant.
Okay. So, I mean, I guess you'd have to look at the models, but... And I'm not suggesting that we legalize everything anyway. But yeah. How do you get a population to stop doing that? You can't.
Yeah, I mean, it's just... But we are the cause of the problem.
We are. We've been the cause of most of our own problems for the entirety of our history.
So, kind of rolling it back to the 9/11 thing, post 9/11, we've sacrificed it.
Sacrificed it?
Yeah, nice word there.
Yeah.
We've sacrificed a lot of our civil rights just in the name of national security.
Yeah, and we continue to do it. I haven't been on an airplane since 1995.
Really?
Yeah, that was the last time I was on an airplane. So I don't know exactly, but I know that they've just now even added to the list of things you can't bring on an airplane or minimize.
The list always,
and it's
is
all
always
stuff
changing.
that has nothing to do with anything.
Yeah.
I mean, it really doesn't. It's false security here while they're over here taking away your rights.
Mm-hmm.
Homeland Security and the Patriot Act were the two worst things that have ever happened to this country. And yes, those things wouldn't have been allowed in a pre-9/11 world for sure.
Yeah.
But to me, I don't think I think 9/11 was a catalyst, but I think we were on a path to this anyway. This ultra nationalist.
We might have been,
because we've closed ourselves off to a degree, and I get it when you're attacked. I see that, but countries around the world are attacked every fucking day,
and by the way,
they just go about their business. We get attacked one fucking time in 50 years, 60 years, and we lose our shit.
Isolation is something is also a symptom of PTSD. But
right.
But see, one of the big things. Would you agree that due process
of law?
Yeah, due process is one of the kind of founding principles of our country.
It is. It's one of the guiding principles.
Post 9/11 is not.
No, you're right.
And that was kind of the whole thing after 9/11 was we started classifying terrorists as enemy combatants. And I'm using the air quotes since no one can see me. Mm-hmm. Instead of classifying them as prisoners of war.
Mm-hmm. Because they're not allowed any freedom.
Because
rights.
under the I think it was a Geneva Convention.
Yeah.
They, as a prisoner of war, you have certain rights. As an enemy combatant, you have no rights. So they classify people as enemy combatants, and they started using military tribunals. So in these tribunals, you have the government is able to use hearsay evidence. They're able to use evidence obtained under coercion. They're able to use secret evidence where the defendant and the defendant's attorneys aren't allowed to see it or even know of its existence.
Because it's considered classified?
Yes. Yep. So where's the due process in that?
There is none. And my argument against that has always been, because I've talked to people who are like, who cares? They're terrorists. I think everyone should care, because once you start giving up your principles, even if you feel that it's justified to do so, it becomes easier and easier to do so. Mm-hmm. And before you know it, you run the risk of having a situation where it doesn't matter if you're a terrorist or not. This lack of principle can be used against you.
Yeah, and it has been over and over and over again. Mm-hmm. In 2006, there was a lawsuit, Handon v. Rumsfeld, which ended up in the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court agreed that these tribunals were unconstitutional.
Right.
So do you know what Congress did? That was in June of 2006 that the ruling came down. In summer of 2006, the Republican Congress, passed laws to legalize pretty much everything that the Supreme Court had overturned.
Sounds about right.
And so they legalized the treatment in these tribunals.
which is all the things that we as a society agreed, mostly during World War II, were wrong.
Yeah.
Because that's the thing that these people don't understand, but they're terrorists. To them, we're terrorists. So do you want them to be able to do the same thing to our people as we're doing to theirs?
Yeah, we should.
That's the whole principle of making sure that you're prisoners of war, and that's what these people are.
Yeah.
Once we declared a war on terror, they became war criminals, or prisoners of war.
But by the way, prisoners of war that we hold in a country that we're openly hostile against,
right?
Which is Cuba.
Cuba, right? Well, we weren't. We were, and then we weren't, and now we are again.
Yeah.
So, Obama got a little friendly, so of course now we have to be completely anti-Cuba. Regardless of that, though, you have to. And this is something I've been saying pretty much since 2003 when we started the Iraq War. You can't go out and preach one set of principles while you're engaging in another.
Exactly.
And granted, once you break down American history, it's how we've always done it. But you're never going to have the moral high ground around the world unless you start adhering to your own principles. Yeah. And we don't. No. And the fact that we almost never have is why I'm hesitant to give us the benefit of saying that we're living in a PTSD type of situation, because that's giving us too much credit.
But I think it's opened up the issues that you're right. These issues we've had before, right? But I think it's really made a lot of this come to the surface. Well,
and that's kind of the downside to it in that sense too. The idea is that because we were attacked, we have the right to be assholes.
Yeah,
and that's kind of what it is. We've seen it, and that's how our society has acted. And quite honestly, it's the same mentality that put someone like Donald Trump into office. Yeah. This idea that it's our way or no way because we were attacked or because we're America. Well, let's give the rest of the world a reason to agree with us. Yeah. Let's give them a reason to say, you know what, that is a beacon of democracy. That is a beacon of principle.
Yeah.
And we're not.
Look what happened to them and see how they rose above it all. And we did.
Right.
Yeah, I remember, I distinctly remember, obviously, September 11th and the way that everything played out, at least in my life that day. But I remember, towards the end of I was at work that day, and I remember it was kind of close to the end of the day. It was like 4:30. Place I worked at closed at 5 o'clock. I remember this guy pulls up in a truck, and he's like, "Hey, won't you guys come with us? I'm going to get some of my friends, and we're going to go down to Dearborn and round up those Muslims."
Wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah, and we all kind of blew him off, but I was like, that was kind of that was the beginning of all this.
That's at that point we knew almost nothing of what was going on. At 5 o'clock, they had just announced that it was Osama bin Laden.
No, they announced that at before noon.
Well,
I'm pretty sure they did.
Yeah, it seems awfully soon, but
because it was what, just 6 months or a year after the bombing of the USS Cole.
Yeah, thereabouts. Yeah,
which was also.
It was tied to a bin Laden. Yeah, absolutely.
He claimed it all, but yeah, it was not too long after the second plane hit the tower that they came out.
I know they were calling it terrorism.
They came out and accepted
my experience
responsibility
was very
for it.
different because I didn't go into work until noon that day, and when I went back then, and even up until very recently, I started this new job. I never got up any earlier than I absolutely had to. If I had to be at work at 12, I was up at 11 because I took a shower the night before, and all I did to do was brush my teeth, throw my clothes on, and leave. So I didn't listen to the radio or anything. So when I got to work, it was all that was really known. My coworker said, "Did you hear a plane crash into the World Trade Center?" I was like, "No, that's weird." You know. And it was probably an hour later before I found out that the second plane had hit, and that's when I was like, "Oh, well, then it's not an accident."
Because the first plane hit at 9:30 in the morning.
I think it was 8 something and then 9 something.
Okay,
so I think I could be wrong on that. Don't quote me on it, but I think it was before 9 for the first and just around 9 for the second.
I remember they were early in the morning.
Yeah, it was very early in the morning. So, I mean, and that's when I knew it wasn't an accident. So, I mean, you assume terrorism at that point.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the logical course of action. Because you're not going to get a disgruntled postman doing something like that. You're going to it's something that was planned.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it was very obvious that it was terrorism. I don't remember Bin Laden's name coming up until much later.
Yeah,
but again, I wasn't home. I was working. I worked till 9 that night. And when I got home, because we were renting. I was renting then, from you, and it was. I mean, still on TV at that point. I didn't even know the buildings had collapsed until I got home. Yeah.
Yeah, I was working the place I worked at that time. I was working on a warehouse, and we had the radio on, so I listened to the whole thing. Yeah, actually, they cut into a song when the first plane hit, and I was thinking to myself, wow, that's crazy. How would a commercial airliner hit a tower like that? And then not
that's kind of what I was thinking.
The second one is like, oh yeah, this is obviously something going on.
Something happened. I mean, pilot error, whatever. I mean, whatever it was. One, you can pose as an accident. Two, you cannot. So yeah, for me, it was. I got a lot of it late.
Yeah,
but we were still up. We were talking, and I mean, I never would have even thought, and I'm sure I knew at that point that it was arguably Muslim terrorists, because I mean those are the terrorists we're dealing with, and we have been dealing with for going back to '93 when the first World Trade Center bombing.
Yeah.
So I mean, I assume, but it never would have occurred to me, for any situation, to round up a group of people associated with one particular facet without any evidence that they were involved. Yeah. And obviously they're not.
No.
I mean, any reasonable person wouldn't have said that every Muslim is responsible.
But that's where, so we've progressed from there to where we are now. And I think if you look at a lot of the stuff that we've done, our international policies since then, I think we've really damaged our standing in the global community from it.
Right, and we have, because we it's been proven that we went into Iraq under false pretenses.
You can say that, but there's still a lot of people out there that don't believe that.
Well, believe it or not, that's the truth.
I know that.
That is the truth. We were falsely led into that war.
I understand,
and we're still there.
You understand that, but I'm telling you, there are millions of people out there that don't believe that.
Now, leading to that, in order to be bipartisan on this, it's also led to a drone war that was put into effect by Bush and amplified by President Obama
many times over.
Which is also, again, a bad thing and illegal and not representative of what I always imagined our country to be.
Yeah. And
all of that culminates with what we're dealing with now.
Yeah. But with the drone issue, that also stems from the classification of individuals as enemy combatants.
Right.
Because if you're standing in a tent in the middle of woods and they consider you a enemy combatant, if there's 75 people in the immediate vicinity of you that have nothing to do with you, the United States classifies them as enemy combatants also.
Only if they get killed.
Yeah.
Because then you're not killing civilians, you're killing
enemy combatants.
Yeah.
So. Even if it's a 6-month-old baby, if they're next to you, they're an enemy combatant also.
Yeah, I've come to realize that if our country ever did have a soul, it was lost a long time ago. Yeah. And it was lost long before 9/11. It really was. I think we were in denial.
Do you think so?
I really do. I think as many good things that have come out of our country, there's an equal amount of bad. And I guess that's true of anything. That's true of anything. But the fact is, we don't own up to our bad. We generally don't.
No. Until many years later, and then people still deny it existed.
Even when we do, and we start to realize that, maybe we shouldn't have statues to fucking Confederate traitors, racist Confederate traitors. Maybe we shouldn't have those in our country. Yeah. We can't even. Half our population can't even fucking accept that.
No, because they're saying you're erasing history when it has nothing to do with erasing history. Like you said, it has everything to do with
accountability.
We shouldn't honor these people that were traitors to this country.
Yes.
They were traitors
They seceded from the Union because their economy was based on slave labor, and our nation decided legally through voting that shouldn't be the case.
Yeah.
And they didn't like that.
Yep.
So that's treason.
Yeah, it is. But like you said, there's a large group of people out there that are going to not see it that way.
Right. But that's my point. Like I said, and I think even though it's probably not the majority that think that way, it's a large enough minority that makes me ashamed most of the time to be an American.
I wouldn't say that. I would never say I'm ashamed to be an American.
I'm ashamed.
I'm ashamed of some of the tactics that some of our leaders have taken.
But those tactics, yeah, we can say all day. Well, we're the ones who put them there. We're the ones who continue to put these people there. We're the ones who continue to endorse this behavior.
I would say
through our votes or our lack of votes.
I would say money puts a lot of the people there, but
it does.
It does.
But there's no one out there is doing anything about it.
No,
because 42% of our country can't even find it within their 1 hour out of their fucking day in November to go fucking vote.
Well, that's because a lot of people there's this issue in this country that at one time people were happy. The American dream in this country for a very long time was having a decent paying job, being able to afford a nice house, being able to put your kids through school, and be able just to survive. And that's not the American dream anymore. The American dream now is what? I'm going to win the lottery. I'm not poor. I'm just temporarily. I'm a
rich man temporarily.
Yes.
Short. Or I'm going to win American Idol.
Yeah,
that'd be the next big thing.
That's the American dream now. It's not just having a happy life.
I would argue that the American dream was a lie all along.
I wouldn't say that.
I think there was a brief moment, at least for the white population, where the American dream was alive and well, and it was right after World War II.
No,
I don't think it existed before, because otherwise, half of the United States was poor anyway before the Depression.
Correct.
And most of it became poor after the Depression. And all of the things that were put into place to prevent that from happening again have been fought against ever since, and now they're all disappearing anyway. But those things were put in after the war. We had a brief moment where the American dream, where you could
for about 40 years, I'd say.
I wouldn't even go that far. I would say maybe for about 15 to 20.
No, I would say
because look at the 70s. Look at how the 70s were. We had gas crisis, the fuel crisis. But the economy was tanking again.
The American dream was still the same thing, though, is what I'm saying.
Yeah, but that's all it was a dream. It was a fantasy.
That's what I'm saying. The American dream was just what I said it was: being able to have a family and survive.
And it became harder and harder after the 70s.
And I would say from the mid 40s until the early to mid 80s the mid 80s is when that dream stopped.
I think it stopped in the 70s, or at least it started stopping in the 70s.
It was still alive.
It wasn't for me.
I'm not saying it was a reality. I'm just saying that was the American dream.
Everyone I knew had family who worked in the steel industry or in other industries that were hurt by, I hate to say it, Republican fucking policies that destroy unions. My dad was out of work for most of the early 80s.
It wasn't just Republican policies, because Democrats ran the House at that time. So it was a bipartisan screw up
to tank the unions. Because that's what Ronald Reagan ran on. Was
and the Democrats allowed it to happen.
Well, Democrats never fucking stand up for anything.
Well, so that's what I'm saying, though. They're also partially to blame.
They're always to blame because they don't have any fucking spine.
When you want to talk about the loss of manufacturing jobs and all that, you got to talk about Clinton, who signed NAFTA.
Oh, I know. But the American dream was dead by then.
Even though it was negotiated under Bush, he still agreed to it.
I know.
So
I'm not singling out.
You can't just.
No, I'm saying Republican policy is what ruined the country. It was Democratic spinelessness and apathy that allowed it to happen.
So it was a bipartisan screw up.
Yeah, but if you look at it's Republican policy that always tends to tank the economy.
But I would say
it was tax cuts to the rich, breaking down the unions, giving right to work states freedom to fire anybody they want for whatever reason and pay lower wages. Those are Republican policies.
Right to work has more to do with with unions than you're confusing right to work with at will employment, but it's okay. Because right to work just means that if you work at a union shop, but if you're not part of the union, you don't have to pay union dues.
Yeah, but you're still given union protections,
I know
which
that.
Again tanks the unions because the unions don't have any financial backing.
Because legally they have to
take care of you. Exactly. It does kill the unions.
I think it was really the mid '80s when the whole greed is good thing kind of came to the forefront. I think is when the American dream really kind of shifted.
Mm-hmm.
Reaganomics.
That's what Reaganomics was.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Feed the beast and let it trickle down to the animals below you.
Right. Which has been proven time and time again not to fucking work. Yeah,
but that's all.
Yet they're still doing it.
That was just the point I was trying to get to. Though.
Yeah. Well,
before you got so damn argumentative.
I'm not getting argumentative. This is a topic that makes me fucking angry.
I noticed.
I was brought up thinking that this was the greatest country in the world, and we're not.
It is.
Yeah, we have a lot better off. We have it a lot better off.
A lot of people have a lot better off.
We don't have it. We don't express our principles outside. That's what I'm talking about. This glory that the United States is a beacon of democracy. We're giving up democracy left and right. We're going to be a nationalist society here in about 10 years.
I wouldn't go that far. We're still.
You do realize that the Supreme Court is going to be a fucking conservative Supreme Court.
Yes, I understand.
As of 2 weeks from now.
I understand that. But the thing is, if you go to any other country in the world, they all have the same problems. They all have these same issues. It doesn't mean that I should be ashamed to be American.
I'm ashamed of some of the actions of being an American. Yeah, sure.
I'm ashamed of like I said before, I'm ashamed of some of the policies we put in place.
Yeah. Well, I'm just saying a lot of our wealth and a lot of our comfort has been built on the backs of people who don't have any rights or freedoms that we do.
But that's how it is in every society.
Why does it have to be?
Because show me a society where it doesn't.
Just because that's the way it is doesn't mean that's the way it should be.
No, I'm not trying to justify it. I'm just saying that's just how it is, though.
Well, I'm saying that there was a time where I would have thought America would have been the country to say, no, that's no longer the case. That's the way it shouldn't be, and we do something about it. But we're part of the problem. We're the main problem because we're. Think about this: we have the most guns and we only 4% of the world's population.
Yeah.
Okay, so where's the gun problem? It's here. I'm not saying that take away the guns. I'm just saying there's a gun problem and it's here.
Yeah, but
take race. We're the country that was supposed to end slavery and end segregation, and now a black man can barely walk down the street without getting another one just tased in the back.
Yeah.
When he was listening to the cops. The argument is, if they just do what the cops say, they'd be fine. No, he was doing everything he was supposed to. He gets tased in the back.
That's a different argument, though.
It's indicative of the poison that exists in this country and has since the beginning.
But as far as violence issues in the police force, that has been around for hundreds of years.
I'm not disagreeing with that. What I'm saying is that we are a country that once we recognize a problem should be able to take care of it.
But that's what I'm
saying. We recognize these problems and we make them worse.
That was the whole kind of point of this topic was. Is it because of September 11th that we've allowed a lot of this stuff to surface?
I think September 11th is the excuse for a lot of this stuff to come out. I don't think it's the cause. It might be a cause on some level, but I think it's more of an excuse.
If it's an excuse, isn't it still part of the?
I suppose. Well, as I said, there's causality there, but
because
it's kind of like Donald Trump becoming president, and now all these people who are closeted racists are now openly racist.
And that's kind of what I'm getting at.
It's kind of just, it's allowed them to come out. It's allowed the bad side of us to just be out in the open for the first time ever.
2018, if you look at America in 2018 and compare it to America September 10th, 2001.
They're very different. Well, at least on the surface, very different.
Yes. It's almost unrecognizable.
Yeah.
The state of our society. And that's what I'm saying is how much of the issues we have today, the anger, the hatred, the racism, yes, that has been there for hundreds of years. Mm-hmm. But is it because of September 11th that we allow it to exist?
Yeah, I think September 11th was the was the catalyst. I guess what I'm not seeing it necessarily as the way you are. I'm not saying that September 11th, kind of a post-traumatic stress situation where we, against our better judgment, have become this. I think September 11th allowed all of those dark, the closeted dark emotions of our country spew out because it was easy, because everyone was in shock. Mm-hmm. And once it was let out, it was kind of like when the genie was let out of the bottle, it never wanted to go back. And it just is what we are now. Yeah, I guess by some degree that you can find, like I said, you can find causality there, but I think it's more of an excuse rather than an actual problem, a curable problem.
Yeah,
that's why, like I said, I don't want to equate it to post-traumatic stress, because post-traumatic stress is something that it needs to be treated and needs to be worked at. What we've become can't be treated, and it's not the same thing. If someone comes back from a war zone and all of a sudden they hate black people, and they didn't before, hate black people, are greedy and mean and aggressive, and I'm sure that does happen. But if that was the soul
of the individual before,
the soul the sole symptom of PTSD, then I would say yes. But that's not the case.
No, it's their their underlying personality that comes through because of the PTSD. Right. But the thing is, I remember after September 11th, everyone talked about, or there was a lot of talk of, we can't let the terrorists win. We need to do this. We need to do that. Go out shopping. I remember was what they said. It was the big thing.
Yeah, Bush said that.
We need to support the economy and don't let the terrorists win. We have let the terrorists win.
Yeah, we let them win shortly thereafter.
Hold on. The goal of the September 11th attack was to destabilize the United States,
and it did,
and it has, and we have allowed it to happen.
Yeah. I'm no disagreement with that.
Us as a society has allowed the destabilization of the United States,
and I think part of it is because it's allowed a percentage of our population to be the way they are, openly.
Yeah,
racist. What do you call it when we're prejudiced against a religion? I don't know. Because it's part of that too. I mean, the Muslim ban was just upheld by our fucking Supreme Court.
Yeah, but that
and that was before Kennedy left.
I wonder another aspect of it. I wonder how much social media plays into it also.
Well, because a large part, but I don't want to lump it all in with that. I don't want to blame it all on social media.
No, neither do I. And
I think social media itself is part of the symptom rather than the problem.
I've said for a long time, and of course I use social media to support our show, but so I also say a lot of times that social media, I can see social media as the downfall of Western civilization.
Well,
because
to some degree,
because it allows people, it allows the underbelly of our society. It gives them the thought that, hey, my voice matters also.
Which is true,
but it allows them. It makes them think that they should have a voice in it also. That their opinion matters over everything else.
That's where they're wrong. Everyone can have an opinion, and you can voice your opinion. Doesn't make it right, and it doesn't mean it's important.
But
it just means you can voice it.
The underside of our country now, because through social media, is able to put out their hatred and their just nastiness,
which honestly is almost preferable to a degree. If we were willing to, as a society, do something about it.
Stand up and say this is unacceptable.
Right.
But we don't, and we won't.
Exactly. And that's my point, because I would much rather know someone is racist than not.
Yeah.
I want to know what people, I mean, to some degree, everyone has the right to privacy too, but, when you have negative, hateful opinions, I would much rather know that.
And that makes me think of, there was a guy I worked with in Tennessee, that he was a black guy, and I was talking to him one day, and I said, hey, doesn't the racism get to you sometimes? Mm-hmm. And he said, no, not really. Mm-hmm. He said, because at least I know who the racists are.
Yeah. I had a similar conversation with a gentleman here in Michigan about, how the South is more racist than up here, than the North. And he said, no, it's not.
You just don't know who they are up here.
Exactly. It's more open there.
Yeah.
You know who the racists are down there. You don't know up here.
Yeah.
And that kind of sunk in, and it disturbed me a little bit because it was like made sense. Like, yeah, you don't see anybody walking around with Confederate flags. I mean, you do.
Yeah, you do.
You do, and more so now post 9/11.
Yeah.
And really post 2016.
No,
it was pretty big before that. Too,
yeah, it
but
was.
It's really gotten big since then. But yeah, it never occurred to me before that he said that as I always saw the North as kind of the less racist than the South.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's probably the same. It's just hidden more.
I can tell you from working in construction, which, whatever. It's I have been in more than my fair share of conversations in that setting with all white people where it turns very racist very fast.
Right.
So yeah, I completely understand where they say things like that.
Yeah.
Where they say, they understand, at least they know who the racists are.
Right.
Because there's a lot of, I worked for a company here before, and not for a very long time, but for a short time that they opened up in the mid to late 80s. They didn't hire their first black employee until the late 90s or early 2000s.
Mm-hmm.
And that's in Michigan. That's not in Alabama or
Right.
Mississippi.
Yeah.
They're in business for, 15 years plus without having a single black
Yeah.
employee.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, and that's kind of my point with all that stuff existed before. All the bad stuff that we're seeing kind of done in our name. It's always
more
existed.
open.
It's just now, whether it be 9/11 or the Trump administration. I mean, I don't want to throw it all on him because it was starting to be. I mean, it's because of that he was allowed to even become president. But he's been such an agitator of it that it makes it almost he almost feel that he should own it.
I don't know. It's just, I don't know. When I look at the whole thing, it's like, we used September 11th as justification to, pass things like the Patriot Act
And create Homeland Security.
The mass spying effort against U.S. citizens.
Right.
I mean, it's so. I think it's led to a lot of distrust.
Mm-hmm. Well, and logically speaking, what people who are supportive of this don't seem to understand is that once you normalize this type of behavior, it becomes easier and easier to do it, and it no longer necessarily has to be because you're a brown person.
Yeah.
There could come a point if we don't find a way to reform our police forces in this country, there's no reason, and it has happened. It happens probably more frequently than is reported. But the police are just as violent with some white people. Not on the same number, and when they get violent with white people...
Not in the same ratio. Numbers-wise, more white people are killed by police officers a year.
But there's also more white people in the country.
Yes, exactly.
So, yeah, it still balances out, but it's an endemic... or I don't know if endemic is a good word, but there's still an issue with policing in this country. And the more and more that we keep turning our back on it because we're focusing on the race side of it, which is a huge part of it, if it wasn't for... and I see this because I'm exposed, unfortunately, to a lot of people who are good people, but are probably secretly racist, maybe even extremely racist. You can tell the ones that don't see it as a problem that a black man is tased in the back.
Yeah.
When you can tell when they're the ones who will post things about Blue Lives Matter.
Well,
or have the blue light bulbs in their porch on their
I
porch
see a lot
lights.
of that. But it's also like when people say, who was it? Michael Brown, I think, when was the one that they say, well, he stole he was stealing from the liquor store,
Right.
Because that's justification for murder.
Right. And that's my point. That's what I'm getting at.
He stole like 5 little,
If
little
they
mini
would just
cigars.
do what the police say, if they didn't try to run, if they're running and they get shot in the back, that's not legal.
Yeah, or it's, well, they're breaking the law, because that's justification for murder.
And my point is that the more you normalize that, the more you're supportive of that, even in your just blind support of the police, because you want to be patriotic and
because
citizenry.
we're a country that has our own teams. It's us against them.
It is.
Even if our team is screwing up and doing something wrong, we're going to blindly support our team. It's a tribalistic mentality.
Right. But my point is that when you get to that point, you're normalizing this behavior, even if it is just to one group, and you're normalizing it because you're not part of that group, so you don't feel that it's a concern to you.
Yeah.
But the more you normalize it, the easier it is for it to become part of that. You know what you get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
If we don't ever, if we can't see past the idea that, or through that racist idea that black people might commit more crime and probably deserve what they're getting because they're criminals,
Which they don't. White people commit
you're
more
right.
crime.
You're right. But again, it's because of the percentage, and it's not what I'm saying. But that's the mentality of these people.
Yeah.
If you're looking at that, well, black people are going to commit more crimes, and they're running. They must have done something wrong, and they keep seeing that as justification for the behavior of these police officers, and normalizing it. It's not going to be too far from the point where they start doing it to the white people.
Oh yeah.
Any police force.
Deal with slippery slope.
Yeah, I didn't want to use that.
I know.
term.
I hate it. That's why I said it.
Because it's more of about it's not a slippery slope. A slippery slope indicates that you have no control over it. Whereas we could change this, because it goes down to reformation of the police forces. We need to start vetting our police officers the way we vet our doctors and our teachers, and maybe even more so, because our teachers aren't getting any respect, and they're the ones that we're trying to arm them. What the fuck?
And I think a lot of it, until you solve, like I said before, the tribalistic mentality in this country.
Well, I think all through. That's human nature.
But I think you're going to have problems. I think it's gotten a lot worse the last 15.
Well, I think it's gotten worse from getting better because now it's human evolution.
You literally cannot have a conversation with somebody without them immediately getting defensive about something.
Right.
And that's because they see it as you attacking their tribe, whether your tribe is Republicans or Democrats or police or black people or Asians or Muslims or pro-abortion or anti-abortion, whatever your tribe is.
And I guess
you see no flaws in your tribe.
Your theory is that was intensified by 9/11?
I have definitely noticed it a whole lot more since then. Did it exist prior to that?
Oh yeah, it did.
Yeah, it did. It did. But
same level.
So since I was the way I was raised was we had conversations about everything. We would sit down. I have conversations with my parents about anything, politics, religion. I talked to people. If you work with me, I fucking talk a lot.
Yeah.
So I've done that my whole life. I've had conversations with people, but it's getting to the point, especially the last 10 or 15 years, where I don't like talking to people anymore, because people just cannot have a civilized conversation about something. I can sit down and talk to somebody who is anti-abortion. I'm pro-choice. Mm-hmm. Doesn't mean I'm pro-abortion. It just means I'm pro-choice.
Yeah.
I'm a guy. I don't have a fucking decision in the matter.
Right. Yeah, because you don't have a uterus.
No, I don't have a uterus. So it's not uterus, it's uteri. Bad joke.
Yeah.
But I can sit down and have a civil conversation with somebody like that. Somebody that has opposing views. I enjoy those conversations.
I do too.
At least I used to enjoy them. I really don't anymore, because I can't sit down and have a conversation with somebody without it immediately getting combative, immediately getting argumentative. And it's because of that mentality, that tribalistic mentality of I need to protect my own, regardless of what their flaws are. I don't see them.
Right. My experience is similar but different in the sense that I can't even find anyone to have those conversations with because no one even wants to bother. Everyone's just like, no, we can't talk about that.
Well, I'm pretty good at pulling conversation out of people, but
and when I try, I was always shot down. No, I don't want to talk about that. Yeah, I mean, you and I, we've had heated discussions about religion. We can still talk about religion.
Yeah.
You know, we disagree considerably on that subject. But we can still sit down and generally have a reasonable. I have talked to people who have almost similar beliefs to me or ideas than me, and they still won't talk about it because it's such a I don't want to talk about it. It's a taboo subject. I don't want to talk about it.
It's
because they're terrified of having that argumentative thing. I think. But,
or they're afraid that they're going to have to get argumentative, and that's another issue I've seen with people is a lot of times people protect their tribe without knowing why they protect their tribe.
Yeah.
Like saying I'm pro-abortion, but I don't know why I'm pro-abortion. I can't.
Or they use just the religious side of it.
Yeah, I can't use the words to justify why I'm pro-abortion. Yeah. I think a lot of people just feel a certain way, but they don't know how to express that. And I think a lot of people don't want to have that conversation because of that.
Possibly.
Because they read articles on Facebook or watch the news, and they use the information that they get to justify their beliefs. Mm-hmm. But outside of the limited information they have, they can't justify it outside of that.
Yeah, I will say that there is I consider myself at least intelligent enough to be able to carry on a strong argument for my views.
Yeah.
I don't know if I could be someone who could get up on a stage and do a formal debate. I don't know if I could do that. I've never done it. But in a informal setting, I've always been able to handle myself well, and to for the most
until we talk about religion, then
Well, we'll have that discussion again at a later date.
That can get heated, but hey,
if anything, that's probably the most contentious subject between the two of us.
But I think,
my
once again, that's why probably a lot of people don't want to talk about that kind of stuff.
But my point is that, I'm intelligent to a point. And like I said, I think
everyone is.
Right. Well, no, I know a lot of people who are not.
Yeah.
But if I've always believed that if you are unwilling to defend...
By the way, it's me pouring my drink into a cup. That's not me like peeing. I don't know if you can pick up that noise.
Yeah. Well, if Nick was peeing, I wouldn't be here talking. I'd be standing in the corner.
Well,
waiting
it
for him to
sounded
finish.
like it was a pouring sound. But so if the mic picked it up, I didn't want people like, "What the fuck was that?" Pouring my drink into a cup.
Right. If you back to my point, if you are not capable of at least articulating certain ideas to defend what you think and what you believe, then what you think and what you believe probably doesn't have any value.
Because you're protecting your tribe.
Right. But I think to some degree, that was the way it was. It was if you felt a certain way, you were willing to defend it with your views and why you think that. And that does not exist anymore.
No.
At all. Why are you why'd you vote for Donald Trump? I just couldn't vote for Hillary. That's not a fucking reason. Why did you vote for Hillary Clinton? Because you couldn't vote for Donald Trump? No, that's not a good fucking reason.
That's what I'm saying though, is it's not just, and I don't want people to get the idea that we're just saying it's Republicans. It's everyone.
No, that's why I pointed out
it's
the Hillary
everyone
voters
in a vast majority of this country is a one topic voter.
Right. And,
they've got
and
their
most
one
of them
topic.
Can't even discuss or defend their topic in a rational way.
Yeah, and I had another thing happen. I think it was last week. I was going to school in the morning, and I was listening to. I turned on the. I've got Sirius radio, so I turned on the progressive radio, whatever it was, just to turn the radio on. And I used to listen to right-wing radio when I lived in Nashville.
Well, so probably most of what you could find there.
Well, and some of it was, I agreed with some of the stuff they talked about, but a lot of it was kind of like batshit crazy is what I would call it.
The Alex Jones side of things.
Yeah, and they were like far, far conservative.
Right.
And the stuff I was listening to on my way to work was far
leftist.
Far left.
Yeah.
So this guy, I don't know who this chucklehead was, but he answers every single phone call with the same line, which is, get woke, get ready for the impeachment. And I'm like,
yeah, you're telling me about that.
That's the fucking problem with this country.
Right, exactly.
That is the fucking problem. What the hell does that mean? Get woke is a fucking buzz phrase, first off.
Well, that's...
And get ready for the impeachment. There's not going to be a fucking impeachment.
Nope.
So why even put it out there? Why even push it? This is why Democrats lose elections.
You're right. 100% accurate there.
So when I used to listen to the crazy radio station in Nashville, I used to say all the time that sometimes they'd make me so mad I want to punch my radio. Mm-hmm. These jackwagons on this progressive radio station
make you want to punch your radio.
made me want to punch my fucking radio because they're talking about immigration. Now, for people out there listening to the show, I worked in immigration for 3 years, so I do
have an understanding.
I do know the immigration system.
Yeah.
These people didn't know what the hell they were talking about.
Right.
All it was anti-Trump. Anti-Trump, anti-Trump. And then there was like a bunch of bullshit reasons why it was anti-Trump. Mm-hmm. And it's like, what the hell are you talking about? So yes,
which really doesn't have anything to do with immigration at all.
No, it doesn't. But they're using immigration as a guise to be anti-Trump. Right. And it was like the most ridiculous bullshit that I'd listened to in a very long time. And I'm like, there's people out there, and the people that are calling into this radio show were eating this shit up.
Oh, yeah.
Feed my tribe, give me something I can use on other people. And it was like, if you talk to people like this, of course people don't want to fucking talk to you.
Well, yeah, and I don't. I hope I don't. I'm definitely anti-Trump, but I think I'm rational enough to know that it's not just this situation or the 15 other situations that have occurred in the last 3 months that he's done that indicate he's a bad fucking president. It goes all the way back. There's indications for him being bad. As far as his impeachment, you're right. It's never going to fucking happen.
No, absolutely not.
The Democrats could take everything they need to have a majority in November, and there still won't be an impeachment.
I'm going to tell you right now.
If they do, they're going to give up 2020.
Exactly, and that's exactly it. Because that's exactly what happened to the Republicans.
Yeah.
After Bill Clinton was impeached, his approval rating went up.
Yep.
And why? Because
it makes him look anti-establishment.
His tribe got behind him.
Yep.
His tribe, it gave his tribe something to fight for.
And not only that,
like it doesn't tribalistic mentality.
It doesn't serve any purpose. Do I want Trump to continue to be president? No, I don't. Every day he's president makes me want to vomit. But you know what makes me want to vomit more? A Pence presidency, because I think that would be worse. Because he knows what he's doing, and I don't like his ideas. He has ideas. That's the fucking problem. Granted, he may not be able to do them, but Pence is just as bad. You're not doing it. You're not doing the country a service by getting rid of Trump and putting Pence in. First of all. Second of all, like you said, it's only gonna energize his base more. And it's going to give away any opportunity. It's just going to turn everything back in 2020 to the way it was in 2016. Mm-hmm. Well, the Republicans will take over, and we'll still have fucking Trump as president.
Yeah, and it's like, and I've heard people. I know Bill Maher got some shit for saying he wanted a recession. I have heard people openly calling for a collapse.
And that's not what he was calling. Did you watch the show last night?
I did see it.
Yeah, he clarified.
I didn't watch it.
He clarified what he said last night. I guess it was last week.
Yeah,
I haven't watched.
But but I have heard people on the left openly calling for a collapse of our government. But
so you want the chaos in the streets? I mean, that makes no fucking sense.
It doesn't.
Either.
But that's the problem. That's why why give these people shouldn't have fucking voices in the Democratic Party, but they do, unfortunately.
Well, here's the benefit. The Democrats never there's no unity amongst the leadership.
No, there never has been.
There never has been, and that's another reason why they fucking lose. The Republicans, they fall right in line with whoever's in charge. Every fucking time, they're right in line.
Yeah,
they might have a few stragglers that leave here and there, but they all fall in line.
I think Trump was a perfect example of that.
Yeah, exactly.
Because when he was running for president, man,
nobody wanted him.
Nobody wanted him. There was talking about open revolt in the
Republican Party.
Yeah, but and
as soon as he won, everyone's just like,
right in line.
Hello, Mr. Trump. Can I suck your dick now?
Well, I wouldn't say that.
Paul Ryan did.
But
Paul Ryan's been on his fucking knees ever since fucking 2006.
But see, a lot of that goes back to power, though. It's like, I don't know. I don't want to get too sidetracked.
Right, I know. But still, see, everything we're talking about is, I think, as a direct result of 9/11. To answer the main question of the show, that yes. Do I consider it a PTSD thing? No. I just think it was
a catalyst.
It was a catalyst for allowing the darker side of our country to spill out for everyone to see.
Real quick before we go, though, I did want to say that I don't know if anyone's really paid attention to this, but I have a big problem with the phrase Department of Homeland Security. Because the term homeland means something. Mm-hmm. It was a term very popular and used very heavily by the Nazis.
Yeah, well, fatherland, they called it.
But it was the homeland.
Yeah.
So why would we use something that has partial Nazi lineage, I guess?
Well,
but you could also say, and this is another question that I've asked quite a few Republicans that I've never gotten a good answer on, and it probably doesn't mean anything to you, not being a religious person, but in 2000, right around the time that Bush took office, the stars on the Republican elephant, was it they're the elephant, right? Yeah, the stars were right side up. Now they're upside down. And they have been since Bush took office.
Well,
and no one can tell me why we've got pentagrams on one of our party's symbols.
I don't know. Hey, whatever.
I've asked people that, and everyone's like,
I didn't even know there were stars on there. To be honest with you, pentagrams aren't necessarily demonic anyway. They're pagan.
I know that, but it's just
your guess is as good as mine. Bush was considered, or at least considers himself, and is viewed as by many to be one of the most religious presidents we've ever had.
Yeah, well.
So I mean, I shouldn't say religious, Christian presidents.
And speaking of presidents we've ever had, I kind of got a chuckle going back to the whole Facebook bullshit. So there was something on Facebook last week. It was political scientists rank presidents from best to worst, and they had. And, of course, all of them said that Trump was the worst president. And it's like, I don't think you can properly say that until after a president leaves office.
Right.
You can't, because a lot of the stuff that's happened, at least economic-wise over the past
Well, that's all because of what was left over from Obama.
That's what I'm saying, though, is presidencies leak into other presidencies.
Right.
So you can't properly look at a Trump presidency and say this is the worst in history when it's not even over yet.
I don't think you can give it that kind of an assessment until probably sometime in 2020, and even then, it's still going to be.
I think you can
relative.
I don't think you can properly look and rank a president until probably 8 to 10 years after he's left office.
Right. I will say this, and it's not going to happen. I mean, and I've been saying this since 2016 when he won the election. I would be very happy to be wrong. I would love for any president to come along and really change things and make things better.
Yeah.
Of course, every time he opens his mouth, he proves that that's not going to be him.
See, but that's not true.
At the end of the day, if he does do something that is huge, I'll be the first to admit it. I can't fucking stand the guy. I will not vote for him ever. But if he does something right, I'm going to say, and I have. I totally forgot what it was now because I'm heated. But he did something a while ago. It was just a little thing, and I was like,
I don't remember what it was, but I remember.
But I was like, you know what? That was a good choice. That was a smart choice. But he's made like 50 other bad choices since then.
But here's another example of what I'm talking about, though. So you've got the whole tariff thing. Mm-hmm. You know, everyone's talking about how the tariffs are going to do this and going to do that. You can't really judge what these tariffs are going to affect for quite a few years now.
Right.
But so here's the thing: you could look at the tariffs now, and you're like, well, that's one of the things that makes him one of the worst presidents ever. But 20 years from now,
it might be something different.
We might be able to look back and say, look, that was the turning point. That was the turning point where manufacturing came back in the United States, and these.
But see, there's already indicators that that's not going to be the case.
But you're not going to understand. You're not fully going to comprehend what those are going to have to do for the country. For it might not be 10 years from now, but it's going to be a year, at least a minimum of a year or two from now, when we see any kind of effect from that.
True, but there's, like I said, one of the indicators is, I don't know if you heard about the Harley Davidson thing.
Yeah.
Okay. The tariffs, they're blaming the tariffs for moving jobs overseas.
Yeah.
Move manufacturing overseas. And instead of, this is where Trump fails as a leader. He sees that and he says, well, I'm going to punish you then too. Which, don't get me wrong, I think they should be punished.
Think it should be.
But he's punishing them for something he did too.
Well,
now granted,
but here's the thing. But the reason that they're moving, this is all fucked up. So he's saying, look, we're going to put tariffs on countries X, Y, and Z.
Right.
Bring their goods into our country.
Yeah.
So countries X, Y, and Z say, look, we're going to put tariffs on your stuff's coming in. So all Harley Davidson is doing is saying, okay, fine. To get around these tariffs, we're going to put some of our manufacturing in your country.
So we don't have to pay the
tariffs.
tariffs.
So we don't have to pay the tariffs.
Right. But in the sense, that's still taking manufacturing away
Harley
from
Davidson absolutely should get their balls busted.
Oh, I agree. I agree.
And that's the thing I've always said.
Because if it wasn't this, they'd be doing it anyway.
Yes.
I think they would be finding a way to do it anyway.
Absolutely. And a lot of it goes back to, it's like the pharmaceutical companies in the United States. I've always said, look, you go to the pharmaceutical companies and say, look, the United States uses a lot of your drugs. Do you want to do business in our country? You're going to lower your fucking prices.
Right. Well, I think it should go even farther than that. I think,
or guess what? I think you don't get to do business in.
I think we should use that same approach and start going after the pharmaceutical companies that create opioids, because instead of treating our patients as druggies, which is what our policies are doing.
Yeah.
People who have been on, I mean, most of the policy is now it's regulated on a number of prescription.
Yeah.
Essentially, that's what most of the policy is, and with some education. What it doesn't approach, doesn't take into account is all the people before this who are already fucking addicted, and now they're going from a month's supply to 7 days worth, and they're not going to get a 2 week. They're not going to get a week extension.
No, but once we finally get smart and legalize marijuana in this country,
it will help.
You're gonna really put a big dent in the opioid crisis in the United States.
I think so, but it doesn't. It doesn't take care of the people who are already addicted.
But here's the thing,
and I know people that are.
But when you're a big chunk of the people, at least that I come in contact with, they've gotten addicted to taking opioids,
right?
And then they can't get those anymore. So what do? They move to heroin.
Right.
Because it gives them a really good high.
Yeah,
but here's the thing. So now
the pain is still there.
Correct.
I'm talking about people who are legitimately in pain.
Yes, yeah. But I'm talking about the people that get on heroin and end up overdosing. And
well,
and the
if
other
you're in
issues
extreme pain and you can't even survive, I mean, I can almost understand that.
But it's not the pain that these people are.
No, it's not.
They're not using the drugs for the pain anymore. They're using
people
it for the
I know
high.
are.
Well, the heroin addicts I've known.
Right. Well, people I know aren't heroin addicts. Okay. But I can tell you that they have medical marijuana licenses and that they're still taking the pills.
Yeah.
Because they are addicted, and without it, the pain is worse. Because the pain isn't good. The pain is still there.
Yeah.
It's not going anywhere. The pills are still helping.
And I'm not trying to say that you're going to end opioid addiction. You're not going to.
But my point was,
I think you're going to stop a lot of the overdoses.
What I was getting at was the new policies that are put into place don't do anything for it. Doesn't attack the pharmaceuticals who are creating these medicines. Yeah. I think they should be held
accountable for what they're
forced
doing.
To create, either find new non-addictive ways to treat pain, or at least have pay for the services that it will require to wean people off of these medications onto something else. That's all I'm saying. It's
Yeah.
there's nothing being done against the pharmaceutical companies, and that is, to a large degree, Republican thinking. You don't attack the free market.
Well,
you
Donald
attack,
Trump sure as hell is.
He's attacking a section of the free market.
He's taking it piece by piece, but this is not the first time he's done this.
No, I know.
So, and that's what I'm saying is you can't really look at what's going on right now and judge him over the course of 45 presidents.
Right. And real quick, I would point out that, he may be attacking the free market, which is the antithesis to the Republican Party, but he's helping the wealthy.
Yeah.
Because that's his concern. He doesn't really care about a free market.
But we don't know and like I said, we don't know how it's all going to play out.
We can predict that the tax cuts are going to lead to another recession.
I can say
we can predict that based on past experience.
What I can say is I don't know how we got so far off of talking about 9/11.
Well, it's all directly all directly connected.
Shit, there was one other point I was going to bring up. We've run really long, so
I guess.
I don't know. It's a big problem, and it's going to take a lot of people to fix it, I guess.
Well, we don't. It's going to take a lot of smart people. We don't have it.
Not right now.
No. I'm not sure if we ever will.
Well, we might, but I don't see... I'm not seeing a whole lot of people out there that are coming up with any kind of solid solutions to anything. On any side. I mean,
what is the likelihood that we'll ever have another Abraham Lincoln or Martin Luther King Jr. or?
Oh, I'm sure we will.
I've never seen them in my lifetime. They're all historical figures.
Yeah. Well, there hasn't been a whole lot of them in the course of our history.
I guess you're probably right, but I mean,
when you talk about the billions and billions of people that we've had on this earth, you're talking about
you're right.
A very small handful of people.
Yeah, I suppose that's true. But we've had periods of time where there was a lot of them at one time.
Well, I mean, maybe not. I mean, you're still talking about.
Well,
you're still talking about a very small handful of people.
You're right, but I'm just saying we haven't had any in our lifetime. I can't think of one.
It doesn't.
We've had good people, but not that caliber.
It doesn't mean that there's not one out there.
Yeah, I hope there is.
So
I hope there is.
We'll see, though.
It's not me. I'm not smart enough. But
like I said before, they need to just make me king.
You're not smart enough, Nick.
Oh, fuck yeah, I am.
No, you're not.
Make me king, I'll solve all the fucking problems.
Through tyranny. Yeah, that's...
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, it's not the answer. It's part of the problem, because I think there are
sweet tyranny.
I think there are people who would be happy to be the tyrants.
Yeah.
Speaking
of tyrants, if you've got any questions or comments, you can email us at contact@lifeandjournalpodcast.com.
What does that have to do with tyranny?
It doesn't. It has nothing to do with tyranny. Check us out on Facebook and Twitter. I'm just ending the show.
Well, you're a tyrant when it comes to time.
Yeah, I know. 'Cause we're like really, really long.
How long have we been on?
Story of my life, bitch.
How long have we been going?
Over an hour and 13 minutes.
We've had episodes longer than that.
Hey, and look, Ian, we had an episode that was about a bunch of different stuff, but still had a central theme.
Our central theme on the last one was we had nothing to talk about.
Yeah, which wasn't a central theme.
It's a central theme.
Check us out on Podbean and
it's a central
iTunes
theme that works for Seinfeld for 13 years.
And Ian can shut the fuck up.
I want the last word, damn it.
I always get the last word.
No, you don't.
Yeah, I do.
No, you don't. Because you fucking edit the show.
We're on iHeartRadio and Spotify and a bunch of other places, so check us out. Well, until next time.
Talk to y'all later.
Peace.
Play my role, let me tell you about it. This shit right here, man, I'm about it. Only real niggas reside around me. Yo, old lady, drop a crowd around me. Dip like I know you can, bitch. Show me the ropes like we in the ring. Got you two cobras, you wanna hang. Shoulder to shoulder, them niggas basic. You know I won't lie. You know that I ain't for that fuck shit. You niggas alright, but I'm way better and she love it. Know that you're sick as fuck. Here go this tissue, bro. We taking the dub, hoping you get you some. This shit like a pick me up. She taking my drugs. Know they see the sign. That's some dollar signs. Know they sick as fuck. Know they sick as fuck. Tell them get well soon. Tell them get well soon. Know you sick as fuck. Get well soon.